Georgia, Asheville, Miami, Fairview. We got a lot of locals on here today. Santa Cruz. I love Santa Cruz. Canada, Sweden. That's a different world. Thousand Oaks. Is that Thousand Oaks, California? I remember playing basketball. That's how Thousand Oaks. We would go on our bus in our 9th grade, 10th grade basketball. So welcome. I'm really excited about not just today, but moving into this next cycle and series, so to speak, of how to activate and then also allow for our energy and really working with the qualities of the sun, as well as leadership and what that even means from a divine feminine perspective, and how that lands in our energetic, how that lands in your emotional body, how that lands your mental body and your physical body, and what you bump up against. Sometimes I think, especially if we already are in a leadership position and the mind has a different relationship to how to hold presence in a creative and powerful way than does the heart, than does the energetics. And so, as y'all know, being with me now for a bit, is so much of the work is how do we get into congruency, right? So there's so many different parts of ourselves. And I find that when we are on any sort of endeavor in our lives, we tend to just work on this part or that part unconsciously. We compartmentalize. And so the more we can just get into the awareness of like looking at all the different parts. And of course there's, different archetypes inside us and different, we have the child, the wise woman, all these different archetypes and beings inside. And we can also look at it on the emotional and mental, and that gets kind of like the umbrella of getting at different aspects of self and energies that are in conflict. Because the more we can be aware of conflict, like the self, the mind feeds off conflict. And it's not like we don't have to beat ourselves up about it or make it even more conflict. But that's just the nature of the self and the nature of the mind. So when we are really dedicated to awakening, and what does that even mean? And what does that even mean to be a presence, be the medicine in the world? Really breaking that down from a place where it's, when we do ritual in our homes or in the woods and all that is very important. How does that translate into the rest of our lives, and where can we harness that power that when we are in that ceremonial space, because that's what is ceremony and ritual, we are aligning with an energy and creating power, creating awareness, and how to take that into the everyday. So the mind wants to create conflict. That's just the nature, right? So let's say you set your alarm, you don't set your alarm, and you wake up and, then you're like, oh, I wish I was sleeping already. Moment one, you're in conflict. You're like, I want to get up and do my practice and my body needs sleep. We're in conflict. Which one do we listen to? And it's like, oh, I want to be on this call and I need to also just take care of myself and not be in group energy. We're in conflict. And so much of this goes unconscious. So the more we can also be aware and just notice conflict, the more we give space to these different parts of ourselves where they can come into resonance, they can come into coherence. And we have so much more access to our energy and to power. I find that is myself and working with others. It's so much, it's just actually creating a wider space where we just get to have acceptance of these different energies, aspects. And that can include, when we talk a lot about ancestral healing, is having a wider space for, the things that we do carry from our ancestry and not making it a problem. Like we want to address it, we want to heal it, but not making it, just having a space where it's like, it's just okay, acceptance. And then all of a sudden we are freed up with so much more energy and so much more creativity, because that balance of focus and healing and presence and discipline with also acceptance is such a key part, I feel like, for the divine feminine way of working with, when I say leadership power, right? So what is a leader? And we can have all sorts of connotations of that, especially if you're like me. I hold the rebel archetype pretty strongly, and definitely, especially in the younger years of my life, like buck against any authority. Even if I wanted to do the thing, right? It's just like, oh, do you want to do this? Well, you said it, so fuck no, you know? And so you're also looking like when you come up with a leader, like what does that mean, a leadership, and you can create, different archetypes onto that. Like when we talk about, sitting in our queendom, right? And for women to, you know, um, especially those who have felt like they've been invisible to the visible and come into your power. What does it mean when we say sit in your seat, sit in your throne? How does that land in your energetic? And then how does that translate into your life and what you hold? So deep breath. So one of the things to be in conversation with yourself about this week, the invitation is, what does the divine feminine leadership, when you take up your throne, and again, you can work with wording, because I think words are power and they hold an energetic. So for some, to say leader might like, okay, I have some wounding around that, but I can feel the authentic pull and directive to step up. And then for some, that might not work. And it's like finding your place, like what is your power word? Because that's going to be your mantra too, to like see like where you can invoke it to create a certain energetic in your spine, in your being. Beautiful, Laura. So she made a blog post yesterday that stated very clearly at the beginning that you are a divine feminine space holder and you've been unable to post it. So you hope today is a healing. So that's a beautiful example, because we all have variations of that, right? To claim this is who I am, and not from the arrogance, not from the ego. And so much of us come from a place of, how do I find my voice? How do I speak? How do I claim? There are, we can go on the other the side where it's been the false pride place, and we have to heal it and reel it back. But for the most part, I would say like 90% of the women I've worked with in the last 15 plus years, it's like, how do I find my voice? How do I allow myself to be seen? How do I how do I withstand rejection? How do I withstand conflict? And so that's another thing too, when we invoke our power and creativity, how to hold that in the face of rejection. And the medicine there too is, once we truly, truly, truly can like heal that part of feeling rejected, which is a primal brain, when you're rejected, you're thrown out of the community, you're thrown out of the tribe, and then you starve and you die, right? It's so fucking deep. Whatever, female, male, non-binary, it is the brain. It doesn't matter what I can say divine feminine, but that fear of rejection is so steeped in just the human experience and right in that primal brain. So once we also can get to that level of healing, of being in your central channel and in your presence, where, you can notice, okay, the self is feeling like, ooh, ouch. Like through this whole thing, like I get emails like, why am I not speaking out more about like the dark forces and anti-vaccine? And then I get emails, it's like, why are you not pro-vaccine? It's just been like, it's been really such a lesson for me over the years. Or if I like say one thing that resonates, and it's just, in one day, I feel like spirit so often gives me this like reflection of someone not agreeing with something I said, and like, bleh, I'm unfollowing you. It's like, okay. And then I get like another email of just like, thank you so much. I needed that healing. And you just know, like, it's just stay in the center. And it's like, you just let it all wash, like the good and the bad. And that's really how you access the power, where you can stay true to like, what are you here to give? You know, so much of it is like, how do we manifest? How do we do this? How do we do that? But when we change the conversation to, you know, what are you here to give? Like, what are you here to help elevate? Take the self out of it. You get a different drive and you'll show up, like, because it's not about you. It just truly isn't. It's like when you come from that place of, this is why I'm here from a soul level, and feel that intensity and feel that clarity, then you're willing to show up. You know, as many of you know who've been with me for a while, like I'm pretty introverted. It takes a minute, like, and you could probably see, like, I post like every, I don't know, 4 months. And, you know, it's an edge for me to just keep like showing up and say, hey, I'm doing this thing. But it's not really about me. It's about how can I serve and why am I here? And so it's like, okay, my introverted self that would just like, you know, stay in my meditation world and do my garden is having a thing right now. And that's great. I'm going to take care of her and move forward. So for springtime, as the pollen is moving around and impregnating the different flowers, the different this, the different that, there's that upward, the springtime, right? There's a virility, there's a vitality, there's a oomph coming. And if it's not in your, I know we tipped over the spring equinox, but for some of you, if you're in Minnesota or Canada, you might be like, well, it still feels pretty winter here. But where I live and in different parts, like there is this, that push, right? And also tuning into like, what is the push from a divine feminine perspective? What does that feel like when, because I think sometimes we just look at it like yin and yang, masculine, feminine. But when we really sit within the feminine energy, the magnetism. So there's the electric or electricity and magnetism. And from the feminine or the yin place, how do we sit in our magnetism? And from there have creation. From there, right in the between the heart and the solar plexus, is this it's this sweet spot, having the communication of power and heart, power and heart. When we have those in alignment, then it just naturally comes up into the throat, into the expression. And of course, we can link it down into the womb center. But for today, we're going to work on the heart and the solar plexus. So what I have seen is when we want to be in a place of power, we tend to jump into this, and it's also just programming, this very masculine orientation, which sometimes we need that yang energy. But there's a way to stay in the yin and stay in the magnetism and invoke the power, invoke this very specific creative life force that's specific to you and your own unique blueprint, that will actually fill you from the inside out. And then all of a sudden you are filling up with this unique power that then is a natural movement forward. So you're not and necessarily and sometimes this is needed, but you're not, what I'm speaking of is not this place of like, okay, here's point A and point B, point, and then point C, like I need to get there. So there's this drive force and there's this energy that tends to come out of our bodies and goes forward, right? So if you think about when you're dreaming, when you're planning, just notice next time when you're like, okay, I'm planning my week, I'm planning my month, you know, and these meetings and blah, 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 blah. Notice like, where's your consciousness when it goes there? Is it sitting in the center of your head? Is it sitting in the center of your central channel? Most of the time not, right? So we jump literally, if you had a pinpoint of consciousness, you're out in front of your body and it's like this directive, this drive forward. And that's where it's like all of a sudden you're out of the meeting. It's like, oh, I feel tired. Well, it's just like you just left your body and you left your source of creativity, but also your source of prana. So there's an interesting balance between having this divine feminine creative power that you are feeling from the inside out, and then it just naturally not only moves you forward, but then you're inviting and you're magnetizing synchronicity through your creative power. You're magnetizing creation through just sitting, not just because it's profound and it's not simple. It's easy, but it's not simple. Is to sit in this place and having the doorway to what you want to create, the doorway to your power, open from the inside out. How is this landing? Is it making sense? Okie dokies. So we are going to work with those different energy centers and see what else comes up as we go into the space. Just listening. Oh, so the homework for the week is to play with that, play with creation energy from this place of magnetism versus electricity. And so when you are, and it can be like, okay, today, like, what do you need to manifest? I need to write these emails. I need to, like, for me, it's like, I need a recorded transmission. I need to blah, blah, blah. You know, it's, I need to go take my dog to the vet, you know, like whatever it is. Looking at like, what's the thing that needs to be done, and move from a place of this, I'm going to do this, to I'm actually going to magnetize it. So even though you're going through the process, it's a different energy. So the curiosity for this week, and you can just like jot it in journals, is how programmed we are to jump out of the self and play around with electricity and magnetism. You know, what does manifest in a way? And sometimes when we manifest from more of a will place, an electric place, we might manifest quicker, but does it sustainable, and does it actually nurture your energy system? And for some people, it might. So my partner, Sarah, is non-binary and is in a female body, and yet runs off of so much Shiva masculine, like electric energy. Being in the magnetism is more of a stretch and uncomfortable. And it just feels better for them to be in this very, like, if you're familiar with the tarot, but just that like Ace of Swords, go, 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 go. We're very different. Go, go, go energy. And that is the natural. So you want to see what feels the most resonant with you of magnetism, electricity, and that also, and what feels the most resonant from a natural place versus a learned place. Because we've all been programmed, even in our like, yay, you know, feminine power place, a lot of it from that, and not saying it's bad, and it was needed, you know, especially in the earlier part of the century, to have that oomph. But we have also tipped over the scale sometimes, where we are actually running a lot of young energy, and it's exhausting. Why is there adrenal fatigue? You know? So yeah, and then we're gonna go. So magnetism equates to, so when we sit, and we'll actually experience this here in a second, but magnetism is so think about a magnet, or it's drawing forth, right? So when you're in, you could do a meditation where you're in this place of will from the third center, your third chakra, and you can do the same, and it's creating will, and you can play with it where it's okay, it's will of action, and then you can sit in that same energy center and start to ask, like, where is your seat of magnetism? Does your seat of magnetism feel, and this is what we'll do right now, is feel this big? Does it feel that big? You know, and you'll know like, oh, I'm used to running my currents, my energy system. So if we could all be clairvoyant and we're looking at energetic systems, you're looking at the nadis, you're looking at the meridians, you can see like where is, especially from the front side of the chakras, like how much of the energy is like moving outward. And that's what I see so much of is, you know, because we're all trained and then our culture and yada, yada, it's like the energy is forward focusing when some of the energy centers are actually meant to come up and back in, up and back in. But a lot of times what happens, you can't see my hands, sorry, is the energy is coming in and then out, in and out. And there's not a recirculation because that's a trained pattern. So we want to train ourselves or invite like the natural current to be able to come in and then move in a circulation. And again, this is not to say never, you know, be running off the electric energy or that the yang energy. But right now, just today, we're exploring like what is divine feminine, and I'm putting those words on it, divine feminine power, right? I mean, there's Amaji here. Well, she's in India, but the hugging saint, some of you know her. And her absolute power and magnetism is sitting and hugging people for like 24 hours, sometimes at a time. I mean, she is seated in her seat. She's not going out. She is holding the divine mother magnetism in a way, the profound way, being one of the avatar awakened divine feminines on the planet. And through that, you get into her field. As soon as you go into, in my experience, as soon as you go into, I used to go to her ashram in my 20s. And then later, the different places she goes here in the US, as soon as you enter the hall, I mean, you can get sensitive enough where you can feel it blocks away from Atlanta. You feel her field. Her field is what's holding everyone. You get and step into her field and the healing begins. That is a prime example of divine feminine power magnetism. So it's that place of like holding and being in your presence and your power so profoundly that going into the grocery store, going into wherever we go to these days, you know, just simply your presence starts to shift the energy. And that's really that's really what we're going for, you know, to be walking, walking prayer, to be the medicine. We can say priestess, we can be like, yeah, let's be the oracle, but for what? What is the point of all of that? And only that, you know, that from yourself, like where is that to align with that archetype for why, you know, and for why. I think I'm making up words at this point or sentence structures. And you know, what just we just always want to keep going because there's so many parts of self. It's like the why. Why are we doing something? So, and we're in our awakening process. It's not just, we're not awakening just to have this sense of awakening. Because again, like, what does that even mean? It's to be the light, be the presence, be the medicine. And yeah, so that's how we get there. So yeah, Brandy, this is what you do in Qigong. And I mean, so many different systems speak to this. Okay. Oh man, I could keep chatting about this. I am so passionate about this. But we will stop for a moment. Oh, sorry, one more thing. Okay, so within this, there is going to be a guide that shows up specifically for you to really be activating your leadership, your power in a way that is going to help in whatever you're stepping into. Because when we say also leadership or that presence, it can be your leadership as, you know, the matriarch of the family, of the mother of the family. It could be Brandy, I see you're on here. I don't know if you're in politics still or not. Getting on the council, priestess witch lady, love it, going into that whole belly of the beast. So it can be like from like going into politics, and it can be the leadership of your own family. It can be like just this moment where you, how do you hold that? And so there's going to be a guide, a specific energy that is really going to be working with you this week if you would like. Again, don't have to, but there's going to be they're just showing me an offering and a really specific for each one of you in your own unique way, medicine to work with this week to really land it in a different way and to remember. Okay, gosh, I really will. Uh-huh. All right, so let's close our eyes. As always, feel into the breath. How's your breath landing this morning? Do you need to make some adjustments in your physical body? And release. And with your intention and attention, allowing the energy to rise up and down the spine. So we have the breath and the out breath that goes from the base of the spine. We tend to be like inhale up, exhale down. Getting curious of what happens right before the in breath. If you'll notice on the in breath, the energy actually comes into the crown and down our energy system. On the out breath, the exhale, the energy goes up and out. So the energy from source coming into your crown, the petals unfold all the way down. And exhale. The energy goes up and out. So at your own pace, taking 3 or 4 deep intentional breaths, feeling this energy and the breath massage the centers. Noticing if the energy comes all the way down. So our breath can get all the way down to our pelvic floor, but wondering, getting curious if the energy coming in goes all the way down to the base center, activating the seat of Kundalini, Shakti. As we sit in this holy circle together, feeling into our being, our bodies, our hearts and soul. Give Thanks for this time together, welcoming in as beings of light, assisting us on our path of awakening and embodiment. So we may walk our path with clarity, with strength, with courage. Inviting in the well ones into the sacred space. Feeling into your own sacred heart right in the center of your chest. Turning on that light just a little bit brighter as others on our call and those who listen to it later are lighting up their hearts across the globe. Feeling into the strength of this grid, of these lights that are your hearts. And what that light represents, that presence, that willingness, and that dedication to show up. That in face of all the challenges, all the darkness, that you are showing up. You're being the medicine. You're tending to the sacred fires. Sometimes in the overwhelm, we can forget that. Feeling your heart center get a little bit brighter, the field of your heart center expanding. Then moving your awareness to the solar plexus, the belly, the third chakra. And tuning in to this energy center and how does it feel as a whole? There's a ball of light within your belly, your sacred fire. Does it feel activated? Bright? Does it feel a little dim? Maybe a little bit tired? Feeling into the seed or seat of magnetism. Where's the seed or seat of magnetism live in your body and your energy field? Does it live right there in the solar plexus? Does it drop down a little bit? The dantian or the womb center? Does it feel like such a small pea that it's hard to locate? Just getting curious. So from here, from your seat of magnetism, what I'm seeing, so we're going to put a grounding cord for For those that don't know what that is, just a link from the seed of magnetism down straight into the heart of Pachamama, Mother Gaia, the Earth Mother. So finding that seed of magnetism, that light, putting grounding cord on that energy, and notice what you notice. Notice if there's, it feels like it's a little bit bombarded by others' energies. I'm seeing a lot of different energies to be cleared. Haina. As energy is leaving your seat of magnetism. Where is this energetic seed in relationship to your center of power? It might be the same, it might feel different. So just getting curious when you invoke the seed of your power, the seed of your divine feminine power. Notice what happens. If the magnetism and power are two different distinct energetic spaces and places, you're going to make a link between the two if they're the same. You're just going to hold your awareness there. It's right at that seat. Feeling into your creativity, your power, your magnetism, not as concepts, but actual energetic seeds and centers within your body, your energy field. Imagining something that you are wanting to create, take that stance and leadership. It could be simply being a leader and holding the consciousness of joy and miracles in a time where it seems counterintuitive, or not counterintuitive, but not necessarily supported. Just feeling into that space. So tuning into that energy that you're creating, that you're stepping into. Going back to that center of magnetism in your body. And in this center, this energetic space, feel into the actualization of what you're creating, stepping into that leadership space. And notice what happens to the magnet, your magnetism. Does it expand? Does it contract? And just keeping your awareness on this center. Some energies are coming in. So the rose frequency is coming into the space along with a golden light, the gold ray. Just letting that rose frequency come into the body. And it goes straight to an area of healing. It might even be the heart or the throat that has an energetic link to your magnetism, your creation, your power. It might go straight to the solar plexus or the womb center. Imagining or sensing a being of light coming into your space. This being of light starts to take form. You might recognize them, you might just sense them instead of see them. There's a specific medicine for your own unique magnetism and creation right now. There's a certain energy that's going to be offered. So your job is to relax and receive as the center of magnetism gets a healing. You might have some insights. Just sit back, relax, receive. I'm going to work a little bit deeper in the collective field today. So just the mind waters, just bring it back to these different energy centers, receiving the guidance from your guide, your medicine, healing. Making sure that grounding cord is good and connected from your center of magnetism into the earth. And And thanking your guide or the energies you're sensing as they go back into the light realms. And checking in with your power center. Your center of magnetism, divine feminine magnetism. Allowing a celestial bath and energies coming in from the celestial realms and the star realms, coming into the upper centers, to the crown, all around you, just allowing yourself to be bathed in a celestial waterfall. The backsides of the centers, all from the left and right sides, the front. Okay. Beautiful. And coming back to the heart, breathing into the front of the heart and the back of the heart. Feeling your whole energy circuit from the base of your spine to the top of your head. And notice what's shifted when you activate these centers. Good. So as always, you can stay inward as long as feels nourishing and available. As you open your eyes, for those who choose to, slowly open with soft gaze, letting in the light softly. And you might want to write down, as always, anything that came up. So that had a little bit of a twist. Always, as soon as I get a plan, this doesn't work out that way. One thing to go to really work with, if you felt like there was needed to be a lot of clearing on your energetic seed of magnetism, that ended up being pretty big in the collective. And if you, which makes sense if this is the first time consciously working with this, is, when we sit in when we have access to our power and our magnetism, speaking from the whether you're in a female body or male body or however you identify, um, when we sit in that seat of magnetism and the power and the magnetism join, I mean, that's where the juice is. That is where creation really starts to take off. And so, of course, there's going to be a lot of um, hoocha, a lot of shit, a lot of programming, a lot of wounding that covers up that place of magnetism, which is why we've jumped to our place of power from a more masculine perspective, a more yang perspective. So if it feels like that center of magnetism wasn't as accessible or it wasn't as bright, really work at putting a grounding cord on that center and keep clearing, keep clearing, keep clearing. Because also, you know, you're not just clearing for yourself. We're never just clearing for ourselves. Did anyone have that experience where it was felt like we needed to go back to like step one, feeling that energy, like, okay, like what is why am I not sitting in my seat of feminine magnetism in a way that I want to? You know, what stories, what wounds, what beliefs are like the cobwebs around that? Did you receive something to work with or an insight around your magnetism and power? Thumbs up, thumbs down, maybe. Lots of insight. Buffalo Calf. I saw that. Buffalo Calf woman came in to help. Yep. I was wondering who she was going to. So work with this. And this is difficulty distinguishing between magnetic center and hara, which was activated. So there might not be a difference. You know, so really trusting how that shows up for you. And this is apparently going to be part one. We'll work with another part later, but so really working in and then have fun with it of like, what can you magnetize? You know, so we can say manifest, but what can you magnetize and just sitting in your center? You know, one of the things that I do whenever there's an offering, whenever there's something I'm putting out into the world for people to sign up for, you know, of course I have like the mind and it's like, ooh, I hope a lot of people sign up. Who doesn't want a lot of people to sign up? Like, let's do this, right? At the end of the day, though, I go with my rattles and my bells and just offer the prayers and sit in my center in the magnetize. And the prayer is for whoever needs this. I can drive some of my business people crazy. They're like, well, what number do you want? I'm like, whoever wants, you know, whoever is this is going to be medicine for. So, and it's just the magnetization and you just feel it, see it, be the medicine and start creating from that place versus like, I have to go do something. Because we can get tricked up even in like, oh my gosh, I need to do a million journeys. I need to do you know, all these affirmations that might have the guise of sitting in your feminine power. And there's a balance, right? There is a need for that activation in a more yang aspect. But when we can really get our own feminine magnetization, that's not right, magnetism, like fired up and really in a healthy spot, just that's where it's just these places of synchronicity open up. We can move between like the 3D and the 5D, the different dimensional spaces so much with ease and grace because we're not jumping out of ourselves to create. And it's truly going back to also trust and prayer with that that activation of sitting in your seat as a leader, as a powerful force of nature, but that you don't have to actually jump out of yourself. White dragon was helping you, Kuan Yin, green Tara, Kuan Yin, beautiful. It's felt it in your womb and felt longing in the heart. Your solar plexus felt tight and closed. So this is such good information. You know, how do our energy centers work when we like what The heart might expand, the heart might contract when we're like, actually, we're not going to jump out of ourselves. We're just going to sit and trust in our power. We're going to sit and know who we are, and then watch the system freak out, especially if you're conditioned that you have to perform in order to be loved, in order to manifest, in order to be worthy. Which I don't know anyone who does not have that story at some point, whether we've healed it or not. All have that story at different times. So in your womb and your root, clearing needed. Oh, so Pachamama, don't know who she is. The Earth Mother. So that would be a great inquiry to get to know the Earth Mother and how that can help support you in sitting in your seat. Kuan Yin, we have lots of Kuan Yin. Clearing of the room. So yes, especially if you're in a female body, which I think everyone is on the call right now, that's going to be so important to keep that clearing going and really sitting in that seat. Even though if the energy center of being magnetic in your feminine power moves a little, you're going to want to open up and clear the womb. Gosh, this is going to be like this is deep. So there's a lot to it. This is deep. Yay. That's all I have to say about that. When we really get going with it, if we all sit in the light of our own power and the light of our own magnetism, I mean, there's really nothing that can overtake you. There's no fear. There's no, like, to sit in the truth of your being, really, when it comes down to it. The big light cover flew off the ceiling during. Oh, wow. I'm glad you weren't sitting over it either. Jeez. Oh, Brandy. Well, yep. There you go. I love it. All right, y'all. I could just talk about this for a long time. I appreciate your time and your energy, and have fun working with this and activating and seeing what happens around you. Some people will be like, ooh, that's juicy. Some people will be like, oh God, I'm used to you not being in your magnetism. I'm used to you not being in your power. So, and then watch your reaction to their reaction, right? We're always in study. All right. So that'll be the last thing I say about that. I will see you next week.